Hey, to whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds seem stacked back against the wall, but even consider it such, know you'll stand tall. Sat and watch from the sidelines, one too many times. Wicked games we play make me wanna lose my mind. Found solitude, knowing it'll be over soon.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Contrary to the Culture. I am your host, Jaysa King. This podcast has been created solely to explore the depths of cultures around the nation. We will have interviews from experts, challenge the mainstream ideas surrounding the cultural identities in our society, as well as make sure we touch on misconceptions we have about. All episodes are brought to you on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. on all major podcast platforms, not to mention my website, audacityofwomen.com. There, under the podcast tab, you can find transcripts from every episode. In order to know how we're doing, I need you to show us some love. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, comment your experiences, but most importantly, turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the episodes. Now that that's done, let's jump into our episode. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Contrary to the Culture. As you know, on Tuesdays, we come and we discuss the various topics regarding our culture. Today is entitled The Black Shell. I'm sorry, y'all. The Hard Shell of a Black Woman. You already know how I do, but I am super excited to introduce Minister Alma Thomas. She is going to be sharing her journey, the things that she's been able to overcome. And we're going to drive right into our topics, okay? So first off, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited this afternoon to be sharing a portion of my testimony.
For sure. And I am super excited to hear it. I've already read a little bit about you and just the things you've been able to experience. So I am super excited to get your perspective. Do you mind telling us a little bit about you, your journey, and just how you were able to get to the point you're at now?
Okay. If you notice, I'll start off by, if you notice, I'm laying down.
Mhm.
And I'm not laying down because this is my nap time or anything like that, but I'm laying down because 3 years ago, I suffered a massive stroke and my right side was affected. But I show up on podcasts like this being transparent because I want people to understand you can go through some obstacles in your life. You can have some challenges in your life, but you don't have to give up on your dreams and visions and aspirations. So, I'm an author, motivational speaker. I've written plays. Before I retired in my secular life, I was a Head Start teacher. So I enjoy education, and I believe that my children were young, so they came into me like blank canvases, and they left out as bright colored individuals. So I enjoy working with children and women. And the reason why I share my story isn't because I want sympathy. I want anybody to look at me and say, "What was she?" But I want them to be motivated and inspired by my story. In 2009, I lost my son from heart disease, and he died February 13th, 2009. And April 17th, 2009 was his first birthday in heaven. And I was thinking when I woke up that morning, not that I wanted to be alive, but I was thinking that were the angels singing happy birthday to my baby? Did my grandmother bake him a cake? And then I said to my soul, like for the last 18 years, I've been making his birthday special. And this is a special birthday. He's on the other side. So I want to go over there and make sure he enjoys his day. So I took all my high blood pressure pills and I pour them in my hand. And the reason why I'm so spiritual is because I know that there's someone higher than me out there, because they whispered to me, if you do it, you'll never see your son again. And I put the pills back in the bottle and I cried. And if you know anything about mental health in our community, it's looked on as being taboo, especially when you're in the church. They say, oh, you have a position in the church and it's like you're not human. You don't have human emotions. They tell you, oh, you're not being strong. You're not believing in God enough. You don't have enough faith. And you're saying that, I have faith. I love God. Why am I still having these thoughts that I can't deal with? Because people were saying, not that they wanted to be malicious, but they were saying, at least he's in a better place. And right then, I couldn't process the better place, because the better place was in his bedroom, his empty bedroom. The better place was the empty dinner table where he sat. So I would think in my mind when he said that, why don't you let your little Johnny go to the better place and let my Tyshawn come back, and then let's talk again tomorrow and you tell me if you think your little Johnny's in a better place. And people would say, my 90-year-old grandfather had a heart attack and he survived. And I'm wondering, why did my 18-year-old not survive, but your 98-year-old grandfather did? It seems like there's injustice. That's not fairness. And a lot of times the church is not equipped to deal with mental health. There's a lot of people being labeled as demon-filled and all these other things, and it's just that they're not well mentally, and they don't feel like they can talk to anybody because of the stigma and the labelization that goes on in the African American community and church. But I had to realize that I wasn't okay, and it was all right to be okay, that I wasn't strong. While you were saying you're so strong, I never could have done that. Inside, I was slowly dying. Inside, I didn't know how. I woke up from day to day, and I went to talk to someone at EAP, and even though I knew the grieving process because I majored in psychology in school, it's a difference between reading about it and going through it, and how you're angry one day and the next day you might be in acceptance, but then just a day later you go back to being angry again. So you have to work through all stages of grief until you do finally come to acceptance, and you can find some joy in your day. You can turn your pain into passion. And I personally turned my pain into passion by starting the Tyshawn Thomas Friends and Family Scholarship. And to date, I've given out 17 scholarships to African American boys of single parents that have been accepted to school, and they might need help buying their books or whatever they might need, because when my son passed away, he was accepted to a pre-law program, and he loved education. So that's how I keep his legacy alive. So then you think, oh, wow, that's really bad. You lost your son. Then after that, I went through a period of homelessness where my row of apartment buildings caught on fire. My apartment didn't burn, but it was condemned with the whole row of apartments, and we had to find somewhere to live. And I found myself going in the system, and they placed me in a bedbug hotel, and I could only stay there for an hour. And then I had to move in with my mom, who lived in a one-bedroom senior citizen apartment, and me and my daughter had to stay with her and till we found something. So that was a period of homelessness. I got married. I made a permanent decision while I was in a temporary space, and he was, before we got married, he was everything that I hoped for. I prayed for that, he wanted to be in the church. He wanted, to make all these changes in his life, but it was just words to get me to marry him, because as soon as the wedding was over, it was like, who did I marry?
Yeah.
And I found out that he was a substance abuser who was addicted to crack cocaine, and I offered him help, and he was in denial that he even had a problem. So I was like, I can't help you if you don't want to help yourself. So we ended up getting a divorce. And then 3 years later, I suffered a massive stroke. And my right side was affected. And I stayed in a rehab for 2 years. And this is a sidebar. If you have any family or friends in a nursing home, or even if you just live close to a nursing home, make it your business to visit someone in a nursing home, because a lot of people are in there and they don't have any family, and friends haven't seen them for years. And the treatment in a nursing home is not the best, because I had a family and I had a voice, and I still went through some things that I never should have had to go through in a facility. So that's a sidebar. But then after, I've been home now a year and some months. And like I said, I go on these podcasts to motivate people that you don't have to give up, because you've been through some bad things in your life. Life is like an ever-living book. The book doesn't close until the day your casket closes. And when you had a few bad chapters, you can turn the page and there's a new chapter, and you can start writing all over again. As I mentioned earlier, that I'm an author. So before I had my stroke, I wrote 2 solo books and a number of anthologies. After I had my stroke, with no use of my right side, which is my dominant side, but with one finger, I typed 3 books on my telephone. So tell me you don't have to give up because you meet some obstacles, you find some challenges. It's like a game. You go through, and then it's halftime. At halftime, you sit and you regroup and relive your strategy, and you go back out there and try to win the game. Yeah. That's what I do. That I miss all these things that could have been tragic, that I find the good, the things I can do in life, I embrace them. The things I can't do, I accept them and don't give up. There's no pity party over here, because I'm still living my dream life.
Right.
And that's what I'm like. Have you ever been to the carnival and you saw that clown and you throw the ball at it real hard and it almost goes down? And just before you're about to win your giant teddy bear, it bounces back up again? Well, they put something in that clown to make it resilient and bounce back. Well, I have something in me that, after, I call it the bounce back spirit, after I've gone through the hard places in life, after I've gone through the hard stages in life, and life feels like it has knocked me down. I go down, almost out, but just when life is about to cry victory over me, I bounce back up again.
Oh, I love that. I love your testimony. I love that you are in a place to share it. That is so important. And you mentioned resilience. That is actually one of the core values for my platform, is to be resilient. And something that I've come across in interviews, I actually had an amazing interview with someone else, and she described resilience as something we should not have to do. And I was always curious. After that interview, I wanted to ask every single person their thoughts on that. So when it comes to be resilient, obviously that is something you've had to do. Would you say that it is within our purpose to be resilient, or it's just something that as humans we have developed as part of life?
That I think it's part of my purpose, because I don't think that all the things that I went through was just for me. But there are a lot of people who don't possess what I have. So when they look at the things that I've gone through and they've seen that I can make it, that I made it, they know that when they're going through things in their life, that they can make it if they just don't give up, just persistent. So I feel like it's your purpose, because you're gonna help somebody else. That once you get through, you're gonna help somebody. You're gonna reach down and pull somebody else through.
Oh, I love that perspective. It definitely makes sense, because we think about God puts us on paths for a reason, right? Essentially, that's what it is. We are in a position to endure certain things for someone else's journey, to help them and support them through things that they don't even know are coming. So I love that perspective. Thank you for that. Could you say that in your experiences that the understanding of grief, would you say that it is something that you experienced more internally or externally with, like you pointed out, with people and their words, that was more external? It was maybe harder there, or do you think internally it was a little bit more difficult to deal with?
I think both, because you were dealing with your own personal feelings and emotions, and then when people came and said things that they thought was helping, they were really triggering those emotions that you were already going through. You're already thinking, why me, God? Why am I going through this? And then when they go and tell you, oh, he's in a better place, or you can have another one. Or, oh, you've been grieving for a while, and don't you think it's time for you to move on? And those things trigger those emotions in you that you're already feeling.
Right. Would you say that when it comes to being strong, right? So we know that the stigma for Black women is we're always strong. We are always seen as this abrasive person walking the streets. Do you think that women nowadays are choosing to take that on to kind of just conform to what people already expect of us, or that we are constantly in a state of having to be strong?
I think that we are constantly in a state that we think we have to be strong, and people think that you are strong because you're moving forward, you're moving on, and inside you want to just curl up in your bed and stay in your bed and not do anything. But in my case, I kept saying, okay, I'm a minister. I minister to people all the time who are going through this. We know it's a part of life. And telling myself, you have to be strong to be able to get through this. But like I said, I was strong on the outside, but I was weak on the inside.
You mentioned the way people within the church and then faith in general take on being in need of mental health. So as a minister, what was something that you kind of did in order to maneuver through those ideals? Because I know you had to kind of adjust as you went through your process. What was something you did?
Well, the thing was that when I decided that it was okay not to be okay, then I wasn't worried. I was like the woman with the issue of blood that felt that she had to get to Jesus. Well, I felt that I had to get to a cure, and it didn't matter what people thought. It didn't matter about legalism, traditionalism. And then now I can stand up and tell somebody that might need anxiety medicine or depression medicine. It's just like if you need high blood pressure medicine or diabetes medicine, you take the medicine until the doctor says that you don't need it anymore. And it's the same thing with mental health. So I was already at the point where I didn't care about the finger pointing and the other people's opinions. I knew that I needed help, and it was not in the church that I was praying as hard as I can. And sometimes, yes, prayer does work, but you have to get to the root cause of what's causing the issue. And like I said, a lot of clergy are not equipped to deal with the root cause of mental problems and mental issues, not problems, mental issues, and they want to make it seem like a stigma. And the people in the community, when you tell them, they're so surprised because they have a stereotype of what they think that somebody with mental health issues might look like. It's just like sometimes you can look at a person that got physical issues and you can't tell that there's anything physically wrong with them. So you can look at someone who's going through some mental issues and they're not fitting the stereotype that you have. They're not running up and down the street bothering people because they have are taking their medications and have their issues under control. So it's, to me, education is important, to educate the community and the churches that mental health is no longer something that you should be secret about. It's no longer something that you don't want anybody to find out about. It's okay not to be okay. And as long as we regularize emotional mental health issues, then more people will be willing to reach out and say, I'm not okay, because they won't be put in that box.
And that is very true. And I love your explanation for it, because that education piece is huge. My grandmother, she was very religious and everything that came with it earlier in my life. And as she's gotten older, there is such a change in her in understanding that it's not all one shoe fits all. And I love to see her journey in that and understanding and being able to process that, just educating herself in the different ways of handling situations that come about. It's inspirational. And I love that, again, you were able to understand that you are going to have to adjust in order to kind of take on your purpose head on. I have an understanding. So with this most recent Cat Williams special, the reason I bring it up is because he talked about something that I thought was kind of interesting. He mentioned Black women in slavery. Where he went with it is not important to me at this point because I lost all interest. But he was discussing how Black women helped to push us through slavery. And to a certain extent, I enjoyed that because it brought about the fact that Black women seem to constantly be in a position to have to take control. In another interview I did, I talked about how at every point where we thought that maybe a transition was going to happen, to be able to take that rest, it didn't. So with slavery, all of the men were taken, either emasculated or they were just completely separated from the family. Fast forward to war, fast forward to prison population, fast forward to now, a lot of women want to constantly be in a state of independence. Do you think that there will be a point where we are able to kind of relax and take on that feminine role? And if so, what do you think will need to be done to get back into that?
I think that more men need to I think that in the 60s, like with our grandfathers, they took on that man role. And as women became, like you said, more independent, and men went through um having all these stereotypical things, typical things happen to them, that once again women found themselves in independent and having to be strong. I think that with the education, I think men now find or think that Black women want to be in charge.
Right.
And a lot of times they'll say they date outside of their races because, Black women are just hard to deal with. And that comes like, I used to tell people, like, because I'm so used to being independent, it's like if I ask somebody something one time, like, oh, can you fix that closet? And they don't hurry up and fix that closet, then I feel like, either I have to do it myself or get a handyman to fix that closet. And then that person, we don't realize, but the person that we asked to do it, just because they didn't do it like we wanted them to or as fast as we could, we emasculate them by taking over that role.
Right.
Because, men were meant to be the head of the household and protectors. But since women have been doing it alone so much, that sometimes we find it hard to let men have that control.
That is very true. That is something me and my husband discussed early on in our relationship. I was always independent. My mother was a single mother and did a lot of things on her own. So having to transition and understand the simplest things that we just discussed this morning, as far as answering the door, sir, when he's home, let him do it. And as a woman that was in that independent phase and having to get out of it, it is difficult. And I see myself, well, in the beginning, I can definitely say I worked on it. In the beginning, I saw myself as weak, not being able to do all of it on my own, or losing value, not being able to contribute in the way that my husband contributed. When now I am a stay-at-home mom, I take care of my son, and that is how I contribute. But I think as women in this day and age, we don't see the value in that anymore. We don't see it as something that is of great offering to our family, to society as a whole, when in reality, that is what we are here to do. We are the nurturers. We are the teachers. We are the ones that provide the different type of love. We are there for that reason. But we have this idea that without that tangible offering, being the protector, being the financial provider, that we're not of value. And seeing it play out and understanding it now, especially talking to my mother and my grandmother and seeing their ideas of it, it's interesting. And I am curious on what people like me and my age and younger need to remember, that we have so many different things that we can provide, and allowing our men to not be emasculated by the simplest things. But I can go on a tangent on that topic. My last question for you. When we think about our world, right, this topic is with Black women, but in reality, the entire podcast is to bridge that gap and understand that we are all the same. We all endure the same type of experiences. Would you say that that is something that you also have learned, that we have these stigmas that we experience within our own lives, but there is always going to be someone that is experiencing the same thing, and that we may find ways to separate one another, but at the end of the day, we are all trying to figure it out. Would you say that that is something that you have been able to learn?
Yeah, yes. That basically, I do this experiment that I used to do with my children and Head Start, to teach them about differences in people, and I would use a white egg and a brown egg, and I would crack the eggs, and they were different on the outside, but
Mhm.
they were the same on the inside.
Right.
And I explained to them that's how people are. You might be different on the outside, but on the inside, you are the same. So all women, we go through similar things. Like I've been on podcasts in Australia and different places and talking about grief and things like that. And we all had the same experience. We might have been thinking different things. Like I was thinking, why was my son 18, had a heart attack and passed away? Another mother was thinking, my child was 21, he had an accident and passed away. So when she was seeing people having accidents and walking away, she was questioning why her son was had an accident and didn't walk away.
Right.
So we share similar thought patterns.
Yes. I love that. And that is very true. Especially when it comes to our different cultures, right? For those examples, no, my thing going down. For different examples, even on a social aspect, someone may be worrying about their next meal, whereas someone else is thinking about the same situation, just in a different capacity.
Right.
We can always find differences. We can always find reasons to try and separate each other when in reality, again, like you pointed out, we are all just trying to figure out that why question. So I definitely appreciate that amazing closing, those final thoughts. I want to ask, is there anything else you would like to leave our listeners?
Well, this is what I usually end my podcast with. Do you know that when we were children that we would dare each other to do things, and we would do them because we were dared? Well, on this afternoon, I double dog dare your audience to dream again, to awaken the dreamer in them. Even those dreams that you rocked to sleep in, you thought you could never have. Dream again.
Oh, I love that. And I'm going to post it too. It's going to be attached to this video because I love that. And I want to make sure that we are all posting it underneath our video because I think that is absolutely an amazing way to connect with this topic, guys. I appreciate you so, so much. Everything about you, your bio, your email, your website, everything is going to be on our website, audacityofwomen.com. So people can connect with you and hopefully get you on more podcasts to share your story because, again, it was absolutely inspirational. So I thank you and I look forward to it.
Yes, thank you once again for having me. Have a very blessed day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, of course, you as well. And I will make sure I share everything with you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that was our episode. Thanks so much for listening to Contrary to the Culture. Again, I am your host, Jasa King. You can find full show notes from today's episode at audacityofwomen.com under the podcast tab. Let's connect on Instagram at Just Jasa Podcast. There you will find clips from our various segments and more information about yours truly. If you're loving the podcast, I'd be so honored if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave me a review. Until next time.
Ever need a boost, count on me for the 1-2. Trouble don't last when the tough get going. Baby, all we do is win, so show me my opponent. Adversity, doubt, stress, could care less. Cause how we handle those like an S on our chest. Super proud of how we held it.